Welcome to the Unmet Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. As you know, my name is Mary Baker, and I'm here to give you the education, the tools, and the motivation to identify exactly what's in your way today and what you can do about it. Because remember, empowerment always comes from doing. It comes from truly identifying what's really going on, what's really causing the issues, and the best part, the positive changes you can make to increase your level of self-confidence and take charge of your life. So in each podcast, we get into the what, the why, and the how. In each episode, we'll be talking about the building blocks to empowerment because they all matter. And I'm doing this podcast because I really think you can fix this. And because I know this, each month I will talk to you about the necessary pieces you will need to either put together or tweak. And because there's some pretty heavy pieces, I'd like to focus on probably one per month, or if it's a big topic like starting next month with boundaries, we're going to be spending 2 months on that because that's a big deal. First, I just want to thank all of you for your continued helpful feedback that this podcast has been so helpful to you, especially the experiential exercises. I will ask that if you can, take a moment and leave a positive review, an honest but positive review, letting other people know how helpful this has been to you so that they can find it. I also have been getting some really great questions from you guys, and I will do my best to try to answer them or speak to them during the upcoming shows. If you have any questions that you haven't let me know about, please just shoot me an email at info@ownitpowercast.com, hit the website, or find me on social, because I really want to know how you're doing. And what's really exciting is we just got the Facebook group up and running, and we're just getting started. Go on in there. It's a closed group that I promise I will keep very safe and healthy, and it's one where you can get in there and get some encouragement and some support and some accountability, and hopefully, most importantly, get into some great learning discussions around the topics that we're talking about here on the podcast. Okay, so let's dive in and let's identify what this is all about and talk about some practical ways you're going to put these tools to practice. Okay, so let's dive in. So far we've been talking about needs, why they matter, and perhaps some reasons why some of yours were never met. We talked in the last episode about how we may have learned, quote unquote, to disconnect from what we need. So go back and check out those episodes if you haven't already so you can get up to speed. So today I want to dig down a bit deeper about just how in the world we go about getting needs met. What does that really mean? What does it look like in real time? So let's start talking about that. So I think there are two areas where we can get needs met, what they look like. And the first area is needs that we have to have met from other people. We can't do that for ourselves. Things like connection, belongingness, love, consistency, mirroring, feeling needed, belonging to something that helps our identity, like a group or a family. And then there are the tangible things, when you need physical help, when you need a hug, when you need help to get something done or to lift a piece of furniture or to get a task completed or to help you figure something out. Those are the tangible things that we need from others. I think it's important to note that a lot of times it's hard for people to even ask for tangible needs to be met because they don't want to be vulnerable and they don't want to be let down. But I think the intangible ones are 1,000 times more vulnerable to ask for and to put that out there. The other area are the needs that we meet for ourselves. And boy, can we screw this up, where we try to put this stuff on other people and we mess that all up. So I thought it was really important today to kind of delineate, what are needs that we're really technically supposed to meet for ourselves. Okay. The first big category there is self-care. And what I mean by self-care is, do you need rest? What about your physical health? Your nutrition, your meds, your exercise? What about relaxation? Taking time each day to unwind, and on the weekend too. A big thing is alone time to think and plan and allow yourself to just even have your feelings, even just to, sit there for a moment and get grounded about what even just went down today, much less the week, much less the month. Playtime. Play is defined as it has no useful purpose. It's not work. It's play. It's allowing yourself to be silly, to enjoy, to goof off, to have fun, and not try to get something productive done. Time to connect with other people. This is a part of self-care and personal responsibility for taking care of your own needs by signing up for that class, by showing up for the gathering or the group or the happy hour or whatever. It means scheduling. It means committing to scheduling that lunch with your friend or for drinks or for dinner or for a walk with your partner. It means getting off your butt to text your friends and check in with family that you want to check in with. And it also, I think, means showing up for their stuff too and getting out of our head and not making it all about me. And keeping those relationships mutually beneficial, I think, is important and healthy. The next thing is to lean on, when appropriate, and to allow yourself to be fed and nurtured. Maybe it's in your spiritual practice. Maybe it's your church or your temple or your synagogue. Maybe it's a place where you go learn. Maybe you have a mentor or two. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe it's your life coach. Maybe it's your sibling, it's your bestie or your partner. Just having moments when you allow others to care for you when you're sick or struggling or just scared. The other day I got this great question from one of my wonderful clients. Thank you so much for bringing this to me. She's like, well, wait a minute. What if, I have this need and I'm realizing the person I want, ideally, to meet that need, they're not doing it. And they haven't done it. And I keep going back to the well looking for water and I'm getting poisoned instead. I put this under needs that we meet ourselves. So what you would have to do then is like, okay, what reality do I need to accept about that person, right? Instead of being pissed at them that they can't meet my need, I need to grieve that. And again, remember, you're grieving the dream, not the reality. I have to come to acceptance that, okay, at least for today, they can't do it. And then I think it helps to say, why? What do I know about them and what do I know about being healthy now today that, they can't pull that off. No one could pull that off. For example, if you're trying to get needs met from someone who can't even honor their own, good luck. That's probably not going to happen. They're incapable at the moment to do that for you. I mean, this is how people step out of relationships. This is what makes them leave friendships and leave siblings and parents and bosses and churches and so on, because they're not getting needs met. This so much matters. The other thing I want to mention is, next month we're going to start getting into boundaries, and that is really going to play into hand in hand with taking care of your needs. And you kind of can't do one without the other, and I realize that, so I just want to put that in there. It means speaking our needs to others, right? Telling others what I need, not making them read my mind. And finally, self-discipline is a big area that really goes with this, making friends with reality. A lot of times our needs are not met because we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not being proactive. We're reacting, putting out fires day in, day out. When if we want to really start taking responsibility for what we need, we know we need to set aside time to get things done. means we got to get a little more organized. Not OCD, just organized. Maybe paring down to what's realistic. I mean, how many times clients have sat there in front of me and said, oh my God, I put one more thing on my plate when there wasn't even room on the plate to begin with. I mean, I can't even get that stuff done. And here I said yes to something else. That's a huge piece of taking care of your needs. Making yourself ask for help ahead of time. Not at the 11th hour when you're so frustrated when people balk that they can't help you. A big area, too, in all of this is your self-talk. How are you talking to yourself about this? And you might need some reprogramming or reframing to remind yourself that there's nothing wrong with this valuable, vulnerable need. How I get that met, right, is different. And we're going to get into that today because there are ways I can get my needs met in healthy ways and very unhealthy ways. And I think we all need to take responsibility for making that conscious choice. At least starting to become aware of, okay, what's deemed unhealthy and why? And what's healthier and why? And who do I want to be? For example, it means addressing the need in appropriate ways. When you're hungry, you grab food. When you do this more better, you would be grabbing healthier food. Less better would be grabbing, some quick carbs because you waited until you were in starvation mode and your body was screaming for something to eat. Wait, that's been me. The bad food quick fix is called medicating, guys. I'm no longer hungry, but my body did not get what it needed for the long run, and then I have created another problem. But wait, there's more. What about the self-discipline needed to make sure that I have time to eat something good for me ahead of time? What about the need to set boundaries with others and say no to the fast food for lunch that they want me to grab with them, and so on and so forth? Needs are always intertwined with other needs. And with boundaries, like I said a moment ago. And here's the thing. The grief work, and here's the thing. The grief that might bubble up in these moments is so necessary. Don't push it aside. It makes sense. Grieve the dream, not the reality. We already know or are just coming out of denial about the reality. So now you have a sense of what healthy needs kind of look like. But what about noticing them in the moment, in the day, the week even? You may struggle with that, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for where you are. Just focus on where you want to get to. So one of the first steps in working on needs is first assessing how in touch we are. Hell, we may not even know we're out of touch. And that's okay. That's okay. So I want to go through a list of some of the signs you may struggle to honor your needs. And this is, again, by no means an exhaustive list, but just some things to get you thinking, I hope. Number 1, you don't express them. You shut down, you ignore your needs and yourself. Eventually you deal with stress-related illness and other woes. You are resentful later, guaranteed. See, that's one of those choice points that we have. It's like, okay, either I take care of myself or I'm going to be paying for it later. And I would add, so are the folks around you, probably. Number 2, you're often focused on what everyone else needs instead. But here's the thing, not really, right? It's really about how wonderful you can look putting their needs first. More on this later in another podcast episode. But it's also safer to put others first so you won't be disappointed, you won't be rejected, and you won't be let down, and you won't be abandoned. Now, this isn't a conscious thought, but oftentimes it's there driving the bus. Number 3, it's really hard for you to receive compliments in the moment. You might minimize, blow it off, dismiss it, because the spotlight on you can feel really uncomfortable. It's that damn spotlight thing again. And that's normal. And it's really about accepting that, not being hard on yourself, there's a really good reason why being in the moment is not safe. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to some previous episodes, especially in the beginning. I talk a lot about that. Number 4, you're attracted to, this is going to sound horrible, but self-absorbed or emotionally unavailable people because it works. I'm being sarcastic. It would be ultimately too terrifying to be with someone who actually met your needs, because then what? Then you'd have to be ultra vulnerable and you'd have to trust. Plus, they require a healthier view. So again, not a conscious choice that we make, but you can see if you step way back and get perspective, the math starts to work. Number 5, you struggle to just even be in the moment, to enjoy the moment. Again, you just want to focus on what's next because you just want to crawl out of your skin. Number 6, you're often thinking about being disappointed. So if you delay the idea of being gratified and deserving, you won't be let down. In other words, you shut it down before you even ask. You say, they'll just say no. They'll just be mad. They'll make me pay for it later. Oh my gosh, people, how many times do I hear that in my office? And you know what I tell them as lovingly as I can? I'm like, oh boy, well, there's your answer, isn't it? And or, okay, we choose to let our fear of X being how someone is going to react, how they're going to have a tantrum, whatever, how they're going to shut down or yell at us, we allow that to get in the way. We allow that to keep us from asking for what we need. And again, do the flow chart. If you've actually stepped out there and asked them anyway, say, hey man, I really need this, and they blow it and they keep blowing it, then you go back up to the top of the flow chart and I say, I guess they're just not capable. And maybe I have some other decisions to make in this relationship because of that. Which are not easy, by the way, to make. Number 7, you often struggle with just in general, with a lot of stress, a lot of irritability, anxiety, depressive times, GI issues, panic attacks. Yeah. Number 8, you often feel guilty when you do something nice for yourself or say no to something. Now, I want you to look at whether this is earned or unearned guilt. Earned in my mind is ethically, morally, you should show up, or you promise someone something that you pretty much could pull off and you blow it and you didn't follow through. But look and make sure it's not unearned guilt, that they're upset that you're not doing what they want you to do. That they try to talk you out of what you need. Like, oh, what do you need that for? You're fine. No. Or I can't believe how selfish you're being. Number 9, it overwhelms you to even think about focusing on just you. You struggle to have alone time, even though this is hard to admit. Sometimes I think we secretly avoid being with ourselves because then once we get there, we know we're going to have to look at some serious reality that maybe we're just not ready to look at yet. And number 10, when others gently chide you about taking a break or doing for yourself because they care, and they're pointing out the Captain Obvious, you shoo it away really quick with like, oh no, I'm fine. No, see, this is great. I'm totally happy. I don't need that. I'm good. You just kind of push it away. You're trying to defend against the truth. Oftentimes people try to, hope most of them, point that out because it's like, yeah, you haven't slept. You haven't taken a break. Hello, it's not okay. So my hope is that talking about these 10 things can at least just create awareness for you. Again, there's a million things that could be on that list, but just to create awareness around where you are. And also to, it's pretty normal to have times in your life where you kind of abandon yourself and other times where you really had it together and you were taking care of what you needed. This is very fragile. I mean, we can get off track for a week and it can change everything. So just wanted to say that. So as you can see, there are ways to see if you struggle with a mindset that doesn't honor the fact that you deserve to have your needs met. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. You deserve. Just 'cause. Because everyone has needs that need to be met. You wouldn't ever think to say to yourself, well, I don't deserve to breathe, right? I don't deserve to not be hungry. It's harder for the emotional and psychological needs to say that you deserve, but you deserve. Your needs are valid and they're necessary. You're getting them met in healthy or unhealthy ways already. See, this is what people don't realize. Oh, you're already getting those needs met, but probably in really unhealthy ways if you're not getting them met in healthy ways. I don't get binary around a lot of stuff, but this is one area where, oh yeah, it's one or the other, and we have to accept that, and I encourage us to take more responsibility for that. It's either or, man. It's like either you're consciously getting needs met in healthy ways or you're acting out. And that's what I want to get into today. If you walk away with no other concept from this podcast, hopefully you walk away with this one. You know, acting out is when we try to get needs met sideways, indirectly, and immaturely, right? It's not very mature. It's anything except being emotionally honest, which often can be very scary to do. So again, don't beat yourself up for this. Just understand it, but also then try to own it. So there are a billion ways that we can act out. And again, I'm just going to mention a short list of some of them. I just want to get you thinking. I want to get you thinking in terms of anything that's not your God's honest, emotional, vulnerable truth is pretty much acting out, okay? But here are some, concrete examples. Sarcasm. Sarcasm, being snarky, is a big one. Sarcasm is a socially acceptable form of anger. It's a way for me to not put myself out there and say, hey, I'm really hurt and I'm really angry with you, or I'm really just upset about the world or the situation. So I use sarcasm because it's socially acceptable. It's funny, gets your attention. You think I'm smart. You think I'm witty. It's a way to leak it out sideways. It's very indirect. I'm not putting myself out there. The other way we can do that is a snarky comment or response to, maybe even a benign or honest question, right? Or a request from someone else. You could say like I have time for that. Like, what would make you think that I have time for that is a classic example of toxic, snarky, putting it on them instead of saying, I'm hurt that you're even asking me because I just finished telling you I don't have time to help you today. Guys, that's a lot more vulnerable. So being sarcastic and snarky, picture putting your arm out, you're keeping people at arm's length so they don't hurt you. Another way we can do this is going real quiet, going mute because you're secretly pissed, but you don't know how to take care of yourself, so you shut down. The opposite of that is or a disproportionate emotional reaction to something. Like blowing up about something stupid, throwing things, threatening or even doing physical harm, be on that other end of the spectrum. Slamming doors, stomping out of the room, especially after you get in the last word, right? That's important. Becoming physically ill from being run down from the stress. It's when we focus on and blame others because they. We're getting mad at them because we're secretly mad at ourselves for not being able to say no or assert ourselves and ask for what we need. And don't we get pissed off because they didn't read our mind? Acting out is basically the opposite of being emotionally honest with ourselves, like I mentioned earlier. Before we open our mouth and interact with others. Working on this means eventually gathering the courage to say the real truth out loud. Because when we act out, we're trying to get others, right, to stop and take care of us, to validate our feelings and needs and our unspoken boundaries. Unspoken, remember, because we didn't put it out there. Yep, there it is. We're putting our needs on them instead of taking responsibility for letting them know where we are. You know, I love Maslow's quote, which says, if the essential core of the person is denied or suppressed, he gets sick sometimes in obvious ways, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes immediately, sometimes later. So here are some steps that you can follow to help identify what you need. I think this is important, and I encourage people, I tell my clients all the time, try to do this throughout the day, but especially do it when you're starting to get upset. Like, okay, what's going on here? Before you open your mouth or you exhibit a behavior. Now here's the reality. You're not going to do this in the moment. I just want you to start practicing. Eventually, you're going to want to close the gap, trust me. You're going to get to the point where you're getting ready to say something, and like in slow-mo, you stop yourself and you change it. You'll even start out a sentence one way, and you'll end it with something healthier. It's really cool. So just know that you'll be closing the gap over time. All right, so the first one is, all right, what's going on with me? That's number one. Why am I angry, frustrated, impatient, upset, hurt, whatever? Why does that make sense? This is the most important part. Give evidence. Take me out, put any sensible, wonderful person in my place. What would they be feeling and why? The validation is so important. Here's the thing, right? You're validating yourself so that you don't have to act out and get them to somehow validate you in a backhanded way. I tell people, go in the bathroom, lock the door, have a seat, and figure this out, and walk out that door a grown-up. Number 3, okay, now that I've validated that, how I'm feeling and why it makes sense, that I'm not crazy, what do I need? Like, flip the coin. Underneath is a vulnerable need or a couple of needs. Do I need to say no? Do I need to stop? Do I need to rest? Do I need to ask for help directly? Do I need to get out of here? Do I need to ask them to stop? And sometimes it takes time to get in touch with this, and that's okay. Give yourself the time. Just keep practicing. And the more you learn about this stuff, the more you'll be able to access. Like, okay, yeah, duh, I know what I need. Finally, all right, then what do I need to do to take care of myself? That's what my mentor always says to me, and I roll my eyes because she's right. It's not about what they need to do. Here's the kicker. First you'll be like, but they. It's about what do you need to do to take care of yourself, especially because they're doing A, B, and C. Taking time to do this whenever you have strong reactions come up, or just even throughout the day to check in with where you are, will help you. I promise. It'll help you become more emotionally honest. Here's why. You're starting more and more to own your feelings. Eventually, your insides are going to match your outsides more and more every day. This creates confidence. And believe me, other people around you will absolutely thank you. So today we talked about how to begin labeling what we may need in the moment and what it looks like to either get those needs met in healthy ways or to leak them out sideways. My hope is that you can take some time this week to dig down to the vulnerable needs. And if you do nothing else yet, just validate them. Don't be mad at yourself because you don't have the balls to go get them met yet. That's okay. That comes later. Just validate. That's all I want you to do. Because it's the first step to taking real responsibility for what you need. And we're going to get more into that in the next episode. Now, I've included some really cool thought-provoking journal questions that you can download in the show notes. If you're already a tribe member, then you'll have them right in your weekly email, so you're set. Again, thank you for taking time today to join me in this journey to owning the self. I want you to be proud of yourself just for listening and maybe even learning and taking steps. You will change. You will feel more empowered. So pay it forward. Keep that focus on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.